like to bring in now Philip Mann, an aviation safety and NAS expert. Philip, great to talk to you on this. All right, so Jessica with some new information there, saying the outbound plane was supposed to be yielding to the incoming plane. Delta, we know, is calling this a low-speed collision. Luckily, it did happen on the taxiway versus this collision happening in the air. But what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, my initial thought is that there's some loss of situational awareness here. As she indicated, the FAA the air traffic controllers issued a command as part of their taxi clearance to hold short, give way for the incoming aircraft. And I haven't been able to find out if they actually echoed that back, because the planes are required to read back any of those kind of clearances just verbatim. And we haven't heard yet whether they've actually been able to determine whether the plane heard the hold short instruction, or heard what they're told to do, whether they read it back. But it's kind of clear, even from the air traffic control the little snippet that was played there, it was kind of clear that there's a little bit of fuzziness, at least among some of the aircrew, about where they were, because the outbound plane was on taxiway Alpha, and the inbound plane was on Mike getting ready to cross Alpha. But it seemed like they weren't too awfully sure about where they were necessarily in that transition. And that loss of situational awareness is kind of I suspect is going to be kind of the root cause of the whole thing. And then however that got there, whether that's just a crew being too busy or just not paying attention or whatever.
All right, so you're talking about that situational awareness. If we can bring back that video that was labeled Flight Radar 24, where we saw the plane yeah, this one. So Philip, as we look at this, my question for you, I mean, how does something like this happen on the ground? What is the visibility in the cockpit for pilots?
It depends on weather and stuff, obviously, but the visibility that pilots are used to taxiing around on the runways. They're used to paying attention to stuff, and aircraft. If you're not familiar with it, a taxiway at night and a runway and airfield at night just looks like a whole bunch of lights. Some of them are moving, some of them are not. But pilots they sit pretty high up. They're used to looking for other aircraft, so they probably had reasonably good visibility if the weather was good. And I didn't see anything that indicated that there was fog or any poor weather. The big challenge is that a lot of what they do is kind of listening to and responding to what air traffic control tells them and what they hear. So if air traffic control, for example, told them give way to this incoming aircraft, and they didn't catch that, then they're not going to be looking for an incoming aircraft. Air traffic control is really good about orchestrating the movement on the airfield, letting people know where somebody is, letting people know where there's a hazard, even if it's an aircraft, a ground vehicle, whatever. And this kind of tells me that somewhere in the cockpit for that departing aircraft, they didn't catch that. Now, I saw some of the passenger video from the inbound aircraft, where some of the passengers said that the aircraft was just taxiing off the runway, then they suddenly hit the brakes, because the incoming aircraft would have heard the same clearance, would have heard the same hold short for, and they would have known that the other aircraft was supposed to stop for them. So I suspect that the incoming aircraft thought that the outbound aircraft was going to stop, and that's why they suddenly hit the brakes, because they realized, oh no, this aircraft is not stopping for us. And that quick reaction certainly made this a lot less damaging than it would have been, even though it's pretty bad for the aircraft. Fortunately, only that one flight attendant was actually injured, not seriously.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that we can't really see it in the video, Philip, but again, uh, the wing of one of these planes ripped off. Again, luckily, very minor injuries to only one person, one of the flight attendants. So luckily, more people weren't hurt. But I mean, it happened last night, less than 24 hours at that point into the government shutdown, which we know the shutdown is going to directly impact air traffic controllers and their pay. Do you think Americans should be making any connections?
Not at this point. There shouldn't be anything. What's going to happen most directly from the shutdown at this point is that the information flow out to the public is going to be slower. The NTSB has, because of the 2018-2019 shutdown, the NTSB now has more staff designated as that safety critical that are going to be working without pay until the shutdown is resolved. Air traffic controllers, of course, are safety critical. The technicians are safety critical, but the people that aren't are the PR people that keep up the website. They're the administrators that process the reports. So the material or the information and updates coming out to the public are going to be a lot slower. but the investigations are going to be done. The air traffic is going to be handled well. All that's kind of business as usual. And I think it's going to depend kind of on how long the shutdown runs, because although the air traffic controllers and the safety inspectors and stuff are working during this time, they're not going to get paid. And I was working during the 2018-29 shutdown. I was with the agency and I was in a non-safety critical job at times. So I remember not having a paycheck for more than a month. And a lot of these folks, they're normal human beings. They work a government job that's got a paycheck that comes in on a metronome all the time. So they don't necessarily plan to be out of work for 30, 40, 50 days at a time, or to have to make up their paycheck and make up their bills for 30, 40, 50 days at a time, because it is that kind of a job. Yeah. So I think the longer it goes on and the more pay comes into question, both with the back paying the people that had to work, as well as what do they do with the non-safety people that are going to get either terminated or furloughed. I don't think they're solid on that yet. That's going to, whatever happens with that is going to kind of set the tone for air traffic probably for the next several years.
Yeah, and we certainly hope this shutdown ends quickly, because just another example of the effects. All right, Philip Mann, great talking to you. Thank you.